Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hey guys, what's up? McJibbin here, back with another reaction video. I know what you're thinking. I am going to finish the Alexander the Great part, series. All right, I can juggle two balls. I can do two things at once. And let's get into Napoleonic Wars. A lot of people suggested it. I know more about it than Alexander the Great, but that's not saying much since I knew literally nothing. So I'm going to get back into the Alexander the Great right after this. I'm just trying to mix it up a bit. Guys, thank you. New subscribers, thank you so much. Old ones, thank you so much. So it's such an active community in my comments. It makes me so happy. Thank you guys so much. I love y'all, all right? Not weird to say. And let's get into it. Now, I couldn't find the separate parts video. This is parts 1 through 6, but I am going to still separate it into 6 videos. So let's get started. Epic History TV up there, coming close to History Matters. This is my top 2. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I hold these very highly in terms of my expectations, and they always follow through. Excuse me. Let's do it.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration.
I always forget to say this. Original video at the top of the description below. Check them out, please. Awesome video. You will not be disappointed. Like and subscribe to them. To me, guys, please. Just hit it. Just hit that button. And leave comments, recommendations. I'll give you a shout out. Let's do it.
Supported by our sponsor, Osprey Publishing. In December 1804, in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the French.
Sorry if there's a loud noise here. I'm sorry.
Europe had never seen such a sudden and dramatic rise to power. A son of impoverished Corsican nobility to military dictator of France in little more than 10 years.
I mean, he doesn't look, I know it's just a painting, but he doesn't look that short there. Wasn't he like 5'6" or something like that?
Dictator of France in little more than 10 years. Revolution and war had cleared Napoleon's path to the throne. War would dominate his 10-year reign. A conflict unprecedented in history that would leave millions dead and a continent in turmoil.
Austerlitz, 1805. Such a great channel.
8 months after Napoleon's coronation, the French Empire and its Spanish ally were at war with Britain, and Napoleon had assembled an army. And 8 months after Napoleon's coronation, the French. 8 months after.
Did it say? All right, sorry, 1805. I'm such an idiot. I'm sorry, guys.
8 months after Napoleon's coronation, the French Empire and its Spanish ally were at war with Britain, and Napoleon had assembled an army of 180,000 men along the Channel coast. But as long as the British Royal Navy ruled the seas, invasion was impossible. But nor could Britain challenge France on land. And so...
By the way, if you guys have any like cool historical cartoons, like that one with it's a map of Europe and like they're all kind of caricatures. I love looking at old historical cartoons and paintings and stuff, so feel free to recommend.
British Prime Minister William Pitt tried to build a European coalition against Napoleon, using diplomacy and gold. Britain would prove Napoleon's most steadfast enemy, and its press delighted in relentless mockery of the French emperor.
He's holding him up on his shoulder.
Britain and France were old rivals in Europe and overseas. But now, Pitt feared Napoleon's conquests had made France too powerful. The French emperor had to be defeated, and Europe's balance of power restored if there was ever to be lasting peace. Pitt found willing allies in Europe, among monarchs who despised Napoleon as a product of the French Revolution.
So I am aware of a few things more than I was of Alexander the Great about Napoleon. but again, not that much. I know that Napoleonic Wars, I should say.
And a dangerous.
I know it's, Napoleon's France versus pretty much everyone. You have Prussia. I believe Russia is involved. You have the UK and any other kind of smaller states in Central Europe, I'm sure you have. And just shows how powerful the French were and how ingenious Napoleon was.
Threat to the existing order. Austria harbored the deepest grievances, having seen her influence in Germany and Italy steadily eroded by French victories. The final straw came in May 1805, when Napoleon had also crowned himself King of Italy in Milan. Austria, Russia, Sweden and Naples joined Britain in an alliance known as the Third Coalition.
Not Prussia?
And devised an ambitious plan for a series of joint offensives against France.
I would have thought Prussia would, they seem to be such a militaristic culture, would be ready to hop in.
The main attack would be made by a combined Austro-Russian army, advancing across the Rhine into France. But Napoleon got word of their plans and reacted with typical speed and decision. He was determined to strike first before the Allies could join forces,
Blitzkrieg,
and ordered his army, now renamed La Grande Armée, to march to the River Rhine. His target was the Austrian army of General Mack, which had made a premature advance against Bavaria, a French ally, and was now dangerously isolated from the other Allied armies. Napoleon ordered Marshal Murat, his famously flamboyant cavalry.
I just said one thing quick. Even if you have your opponent, like France is the big power, your opponent fighting a bunch of other powers that collectively might be on paper as powerful as you, they're going to lack the communication and command structure and efficiency of communication and sending troops where and logistics. And so really Napoleon is still going to have the advantage there. That's not taken away from his genius commanding.
Cavalry commander to make feint attacks through the Black Forest, while the rest of his army, advancing at speed, enveloped Mack's army from the north. That summer, Napoleon's Grande Armée was at its most formidable. Well-trained, highly motivated, its regiments at full strength. What's more, it had been newly reorganized according to the corps system, later imitated by virtually every army in the world. Each corps, commanded by a marshal, was a mini-army of 15,000 to 30,000 soldiers, with its own infantry, cavalry, artillery, and supporting arms, such as reconnaissance, engineers, and transport. This meant each corps could march and fight for a limited time independently.
That's a huge thing that American military clearly adopts and has served them well for a while. And where dictatorships, well, is Napoleon a dictator? But where, really self-conscious leaders and uncomfortable and untrustful leaders, like Hitler was, where you don't give your commanders the power to act on their own with big decisions. Yeah, it might make sure that you call all the shots, but it also means you put your opponent, your army and your generals at a very big disadvantage if the other army has competent generals who have the trust of their leader who can act independently and have a certain amount of power.
Allowing Napoleon to break with the old doctrine of keeping his army concentrated and advance with his corps widely dispersed.
He was ahead of his
This
time.
helped to disguise his real objective and increased movement speed because the army could advance along multiple roads and live off the land, taking its supplies from scattered villages rather than relying on slow-moving supply wagons. When the enemy's main force was located, the army could quickly concentrate for battle. This is how Napoleon's army was able to move at a speed that often surprised.
That's when a lot of people do the scorched earth kind of when they retreat, like Russia did, and I think did the Persians do it when in with Napoleon with Alexander the Great, where that's a big reason you have to have their army rely on their own logistics of food and ammunition and supplies by pretty much just burning all of the major cities on the way back to your recovery point or your capital.
And disorientated his enemies.
I gotta stop pausing, sorry.
Mack didn't realize the danger he was in until it was too late. Napoleon's fast-moving corps crossed the Danube behind him and surrounded his army. Mack launched a series of poorly coordinated counterattacks, but despite some desperate fighting, the Austrians couldn't break out of the trap. Mack hoped that Kutuzov's Russian army could arrive in time to save him, but the Russians were still 160 miles away. And so, at Ulm, on the 19th of October, just 6 weeks into the war, Mack surrendered his army to Napoleon. The French took nearly 60,000 Austrian prisoners, and Napoleon had struck his first devastating blow against the coalition.
Wasn't Prussia
Russian General Mikhail Kutuzov was an experienced and wary commander, more cautious than Mack. His army was exhausted after its 900-mile march from Russia, but hearing of the Austrians' surrender at Ulm, and knowing he wasn't strong enough to face Napoleon alone, he immediately ordered a retreat. Napoleon pursued.
He is such a beast.
The Russians fought several sharp rearguard actions, but could not save the Austrian capital, Vienna, which the French occupied on the 12th of November. Kutuzov slipped away to Olmütz in today's Czech Republic, where he was joined by reinforcements, as well as Emperor Alexander of Russia and Emperor Francis of Austria in person. Napoleon was furious that Kutuzov had escaped. By now his army was also exhausted and far from home, with winter approaching.
Two big things. Don't inflate your currency. Don't print too much money, and don't attack Russia in the winter.
Needed to force a decisive battle quickly. Fortunately for him, the overconfident 27-year-old Russian emperor sought the glory of battle, overriding the concerns of his veteran commander, General Kutuzov. With the Allied army closing in, Napoleon ordered his corps to rapidly concentrate on a battlefield he had carefully selected, near the town of Austerlitz. Napoleon oversaw the dispositions of his army late into the night, then grabbed a few hours' sleep beside a campfire. Dawn would mark the first anniversary of his coronation as emperor, and promised a battle that would make or break his young empire.
Gotta admire this guy.
The morning of the 2nd of December 1805 was cold and bright with a heavy mist. Two armies of near equal size faced each other across a 7-mile-wide battlefield. But the Allies held the high ground of the Pratzen Heights, while French Third Corps under Marshal Davout was still marching to the battlefield.
Can I just say again why I love this channel so much? Just look at right here. It's a perfect example. It combines, cartoons and images and quotes from leaders, and it shows the battles in a great way and how they move troops. It's just such an all-around great channel to learn history.
Seeing Napoleon,
it might be my favorite. It might be History Matters. I think it's my favorite.
Thinly stretched right flank.
Whoever you were.
The Allies planned a large-scale attack from the Pratzen
Who recommended
Heights
the first
to steamroller the French right.
Sorry, I missed that.
Seeing Napoleon's thinly stretched right flank, the Allies planned a large-scale attack from the Pratzen Heights to steamroller the French right, before swinging round to envelop Napoleon's army. Little did they know, Napoleon was counting on his weak right wing luring the Allies into just such a move, whereupon he would launch his own attack on the Pratzen Heights to cut the Allied army in half. His bold plan relied on his correct prediction of Allied movements, the speedy arrival of Davout's Third Corps on his right, and a perfectly timed counterattack. The battle began around 7 a.m. as Austrian troops of General Kienmeyer...
If anyone knows how he makes these animations, or they, yeah, that'd be cool to know how they do that.
...as advance guard clashed with French troops defending the village of Telnitz. In the face of overwhelming odds, the French fought stubbornly and bravely. But gradually, they were forced back. But the Allies, instead of carrying out their great enveloping attack, did nothing. The morning mist and the late arrival of orders had led to confusion and delay, and it was another hour before the first 3 Allied columns were on the move. Soon, fierce fighting erupted around Sokolnitz village.
I feel like if they want any chance of winning, they need to suck up their pride and make one commander, you know, and all the, like, make him call the shots with it. I know armies won't want, and if they did, let me know. They don't want, you know, a commander to control their own army or anything, but it's just he's going to keep destroying you and taking advantage of the fact that of your poor organization and communication and knowing that you're split between multiple leaders.
And Castle. Marshal Davout's corps, which had just force-marched 70 miles in 2 days, now arrived to strengthen the French right wing. Around 9 a.m., his lead infantry brigade appeared suddenly through the mist and retook Telnitz, before being driven back in turn by Austrian hussars. 2 more of Davout's brigades reinforced French troops at Sokolnitz. As the mist began to clear, Napoleon saw that, as he'd hoped, the Allied left was moving off the Pratzen Heights, and he ordered Marshal Soult's 4th Corps to begin its attack. To the alarm of Allied commanders, 2 French infantry divisions, until now hidden by the mist, were suddenly seen advancing straight towards the Allied center. General Kutuzov was forced to hurriedly organize a defense of the heights, using troops of 4 column. 2 hours of bloody fighting followed. Musket fire was so rapid and furious that both sides were soon low on ammunition and turned to the bayonet.
I was just about to ask. I wonder, you know, I know they had gun firearms at this point. They didn't have the Gatling gun for damn sure. Or anything resembling a machine gun. If I'm wrong, I'm almost positive I'm not wrong. There's no way they had anything resembling a multi-firing weapon, I believe. And so I see them with swords and stuff. Those become more decorative as time goes on. I think even in like World War I, you know, European generals were carrying swords. Japanese generals were doing it in World War II. But there must have been a lot of hand-to-hand combat. I mean, these things weren't so accurate and everything. So
by 11 a.m., the French,
like, I wonder what the ratio of kills by firearm and kills by, you know, a sword or, you know, a bayonet.
With the advantage in training and discipline. By 11 a.m., the French, with the advantage in training and discipline, had secured the heights and driven a deep wedge into the Allied position. To the north, a giant cavalry battle developed. While a Russian force from General Bagration's advance guard captured the village of Bosenitz, before it was halted by cannon fire from the Santon Hill. A decisive charge by 6 regiments of French heavy cavalry finally drove back the Allies, allowing Marshal Lannes' 5 Corps to move forward and seize Blasowitz and Krug. Now, Grand Duke Constantine, commanding the Russian Imperial Guard, led forward this last Allied reserve in a desperate bid to reclaim the Pratzen Heights. A battalion of the French 4th Line Regiment was charged down by Russian Guard cavalry, losing its Eagle standard in bloody fighting. Napoleon, who'd moved up to the heights, sent in his own Guard cavalry. In this grim melee between the elite horsemen of both armies, the French finally prevailed. Napoleon had broken the Allied center. Now, to close the...
So does France pretty much go undefeated until Waterloo, or in Russia, actually?
Trap on the Allied left wing, still locked in heavy fighting around Sokolnitz. Around 2 p.m., Napoleon ordered 4 divisions to swing south and cut off their retreat. General Buxhouden, commanding the Allied left, only now saw the danger he was in.
You're done, man.
Attacked from 3 sides, the only escape was south.
I'm surprised they got that many.
Many of his troops were forced to flee.
God, look at these guys. You're done. I'm sorry,
frozen
man.
ponds. French artillery opened fire, trying to smash the ice with their cannonballs. About 200 men and dozens of horses drowned in the freezing water.
Pretty smart.
But not the many thousands of Napoleon's propaganda. The French Emperor had won a brilliant victory. His army had taken more than 10,000 prisoners and captured 45 enemy standards.
I gotta give it to you, France. I gotta give it to you. That's
Thousands
impressive.
of dead and wounded of all sides littered the battlefield. Many left untended for days. The Battle of the Three Emperors, as it became known, was a crushing blow to the Third Coalition. As Russian forces retreated back to Russia, Francis I of Austria was forced to accept a humiliating settlement with France, agreeing to pay a 40 million franc indemnity and give up more territory in exchange for peace. But meanwhile, news had reached Napoleon of a disastrous Franco-Spanish defeat at sea off Cape Trafalgar. British Admiral Lord Nelson, at the cost of his own life.
There is a channel called Kings and Generals. I've only seen one video of it, but it was a great video about Cochrane, who was a naval commander. He wasn't as old as Nelson or anything, but it was a great video. So if you guys want me to check out more Kings and Generals videos, definitely do that. Let me know. But you should always also check that out. Cochrane, Kings and Generals, very cool.
Had masterminded a victory so complete that it ensured British naval dominance, not just for the rest of the war, but for the next 100 years. Britain, master of the sea. Napoleon, unbeatable on land. The whale and the elephant, neither able to challenge the other in its own domain.
Crazy how many parallels Napoleon has to Hitler's war on obviously different. Obviously Hitler has a lot of atrocities attributed to him. Very negative character, as he should be. Napoleon, is kind of hard to see any atrocities he committed, but just in terms of military tactics and the layout of the war, so many similarities with the Axis in World War II, except they were attacking France, they were attacking Russia, they were controlling the land, master of land, while Great Britain again is the master of the sea. So yeah.
When William Pitt received news of the whale and the elephant, neither able to challenge the other in its own domain.
I like that, the whale and the elephant.
When William Pitt received news of Napoleon's victory at Austerlitz, he's supposed to have said, "Roll up that map of Europe. It will not be wanted these 10 years." To have said, William Pitt received news of Napoleon's victory at Austerlitz. When William Pitt received news of Napoleon's victory at Austerlitz, he's supposed to have said, "Roll up that map of Europe. It will not be wanted these 10 years." A month later, Pitt was dead. But his warning that Europe faced another 10 years
These guys right here, are these Ottomans?
of war and upheaval was to prove prophetic.
Part 2, should we just keep going? No, I can't. I have to get back to the Alexander the Great. Also great videos. I'm on part 4 next. I think I'll come out with that later today. Or maybe do like a History Matters, or look for more recommended down there, and maybe a Time Goes History, whatever. Thank you. I'm going to go back and look and see who first recommended me history, Epic History TV. Salmonella is less, it's much more of a funny take on weird things in history, so I don't really count that in terms of my favorite like learning history channels. It is Undisputed History Matters for quite a while now. This, I'm going to say, is my favorite channel now. I'm sorry, History Matters, you are a dead close second. But this is such a great channel. Thank you. I'll pin you again in my next one. Just let me know who it was, or I can find out who it was. Thank you. You guys are helping me learn history through your suggestions, and then maybe learning a bit with me. Ow, my neck. And yeah, I love this. I want to keep doing this. Leave recommendations. Check out my channel. Check out Epic History TV for sure. You will not be disappointed. Hit that bell icon so you know when my next video comes out. See you guys.